Welcome to the NHL Playoff Preview Show right here on CUTV. I'm Allison Steinheiser. Andy Hughes and Scott Majesky are here with me. What we're going to do is break down each round of the playoffs. But first, let's start out by just looking at the teams that are involved. In the East, you have the Capitals and Rangers. The Rangers barely sneaking into the playoffs this year. It came down towards the very end of the season. I was kind of surprised to see them get in, but they were able to make a push towards the end.
Well, I think a lot of people were surprised to see the Rangers get in with the Ryan Callahan injury towards the end of the season. A lot of people might have thought they faded away. I was hoping that New Jersey was going to be able to get into the playoffs of the AC with that big late run. But Rangers, it's all behind because of Henrik Lundqvist.
Yeah, Henrik Lundqvist's been a big part of that team, and the Carolina Hurricanes sort of helped out the Rangers by losing their last game of the season. So, the Rangers are still a dangerous team. They still have some big guns, and Lundqvist is going to be the key to their success.
Right, the second matchup in the East, we have Philadelphia and Buffalo. Both teams, Philadelphia losing last year in the Stanley Cup Final. Buffalo losing to Boston in the first round. So this should be an interesting matchup. Both teams have decent goaltending. It'll be interesting to see which team wins out.
Yeah, Ryan Miller's obviously going to be the main guy for Buffalo as usual. And Philadelphia, well, they've had a really good team and a lot of skill on that team. So, it's going to be a really fun series to watch.
Yeah, it will be. You got a veteran goaltender in Ryan Miller going up against a couple rookies for the Philadelphia Flyers in net. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be an interesting goaltending matchup, and I'm excited to see what unfolds in that playoff series.
Definitely, and one of the most intriguing playoff series out of all of them in the East is Buffalo-Montreal. There's some bad blood between these two teams, not only this year but in the past. Montreal was a surprise team last year. They're going to have a struggle against Boston this year.
Yeah, Tim Thomas, probably one of the favorites to win the Vezina Trophy. He's going to have to be huge for Boston. But Montreal's sort of, again, like last season, a sleeper team. They took out the Penguins and the Capitals last season. So they'll be looking to repeat that performance this year.
Yeah, it's an original six matchup. I think that's going to bring a lot of people in excited for Boston, Montreal. I mean, there's probably no better rivalry besides maybe the Flyers and Penguins. And yeah, pretty much that's like the best rivalry in the game right there, Montreal and Boston. So it's going to be a fun series to watch. Should be a good, hard, fun 7-game series.
Yeah, and the last matchup in the East, Pittsburgh and the Lightning. You have Steven Stamkos' first playoff series. The Lightning finally getting back to the playoffs. A younger team, they'll have to see how they match up against the more veteran Penguins.
Yeah, and like you said, Allison, a young team with Steven Stamkos and a couple other players, but they do have veterans. St. Louis' been there before. LeCavallier's been there. Malone's been there. We all know him. And Adam Hall as well, another ex-Penguin. So and Rolson, too, their goaltender, made it to the finals with the Oilers a couple years back. So it's going to be an interesting and fun series. I think that's going to be a really fun, exciting, just fast, high-paced, just fun series.
Yeah, you got Tampa's high-octane offense against Pittsburgh's revamped defense, and Marc-Andre Fleury having a huge season. In the Penguins' offense, he's got to step up because, Dwayne Rolson isn't the greatest goaltender, but he does have a lot of experience. So, he could turn it on here in the playoffs. Yeah,
and then you head out west, an intriguing matchup between the Vancouver Canucks and the Chicago Blackhawks. The Blackhawks literally getting in on the very last game of the NHL season with the Dallas Stars losing. The defending Cup champions are going to have to find a way to knock off the high-flying Canucks.
Yeah, it's a real surprise that Chicago's the 8th seed this year. I mean, defending champs, and they just have so much skill on that team. Vancouver winning the President's Trophy this year, that's going to be really fun to watch, and I think that one should end up going 7 games.
Yeah, first time in the new era that a President's Trophy team is playing the defending Cup champs in the first round of the series. So, I mean, it's going to be an interesting series. Chicago had a chance to just ease in by just getting a point against Detroit in that last Sunday, but they had to sweat it out a little bit and see Minnesota beat Dallas. But it'll be an interesting series.
Right, and then you have the Battle of California, San Jose against LA. That should be an interesting matchup for those two teams as well.
Yeah, they're not too far. San Jose and Los Angeles not too far away. Kind of a little rivalry brewing up in that, if you will. I like both teams, but I like San Jose just a little bit more in that series. They've got a little bit more talent, I believe, and because of Andre Kopitar's injury at the end of the season, LA's going in with a little bit of a bum leg, but they got still some players to play.
Yeah, Jonathan Quick, a good goaltender for Los Angeles, and I think the Kopitar injury is huge for San Jose because they can really take advantage of that. Kotora, real skilled player. So you got Joe Pavelski, Joe Thornton, all those guys. That line can really heat up during the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Then you also have a matchup from last year, Phoenix getting knocked off by Detroit. This year they're going to look for some revenge.
Yeah, Phoenix, they're going to have to count on Ilya Bryzgalov, their goaltender, to get past this offense of the Detroit Red Wings. They're very old, but they're very experienced. So that's going to be a fun one to watch. I think it could go 7 games.
Yeah, that Phoenix team was the feel-good story of last year's playoffs, and it was kind of sad to see them get knocked out. But this Detroit team's looking a lot like that 2008 team that won the Stanley Cup final a couple years ago.
The last matchup, 2 non-traditional hockey markets. You have Anaheim and Nashville. Anaheim has some goaltending questions right now. Ray Emery played well towards the end of the season. However, he was injured, so he's questionable coming into the playoffs. How is that going to be a factor? Well,
it's a great story for Ray Emery. We all know how he struggled a little bit a couple years ago, got kicked off, went to Europe, then played in a couple of the American Hockey League. Now he's a starting goaltender in the playoffs. But, I mean, Anaheim, Nashville, you don't really think of those two, but Anaheim did win the Cup a few years back. I'm excited to see this series. I think this Nashville team's very underrated. They can make some noise in these playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's a very underrated matchup as well. Ray Emery, getting a second chance is kind of a good story. You got Shea Weber on Nashville, and Anaheim's got Corey Perry, Wisnowski, Bobby Ryan, Ryan Getzlaf. So there's a lot of skill between both of these teams. So it should be a good series.
Absolutely, and we're going to go to a commercial break now. Whenever we come back, we will be looking more in depth at all of the East playoff matchups. Stay tuned.